we've got a whole team looking at things, so I can't really speak to it.
He can't really speak to it. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, after meeting with Senate Republicans yesterday, brushing off several reporter questions concerning President Trump's unfounded allegations of voter fraud. The Associated Press reports that Meadows has encouraged Senate Republicans to make the most of their remaining time with Trump, according to two senators. So the problem is that the Biden transition team, Joe, is waiting desperately, actually, for vital information pertaining to the coronavirus. And people...
I'm going to stop it here for a second, and it should say simply, the lying deceitful, okay? It's lying, it's not true, all right? It's lying. Call it what it is, lying. So the average American understand that word, lying, over and over again. Not telling the truth, lying.
Will lose their lives if this information isn't handed over.
Yeah, I mean,
when it comes to coronavirus, they've been lying and lying and lying, and we've lost, 251,678 Americans who should be alive right now. And God and Christ want them to be alive. So don't put this on God or Christ. Okay, this is all man's doing, not God, not Christ.
250,000 lives lost right now. That number's going to go up. We've got the highest incidence of coronavirus cases ever. This is a disease that we didn't even know about a year ago.
And we have it because of the lying that has gone on and the tricking of people. That's why, the lying.
Now 250,000 Americans are going to be dead. Certainly, we're going to be most likely close to 300,000 by the time Donald Trump leaves office. He has, by continuing to sit in his office and do nothing and not allow the transition of power to begin and not to key the Biden administration in to where they are on vaccines, on strategy. He is making sure that history holds him accountable for every last death that we have during this time frame.
Wow.
And we've been patient on this show. I mean, I've said time and again that Mitch McConnell, when he tweeted out, everybody has a right to count the votes. Then they have the right to do the legal challenges, and then we move forward. Well, we're there. And, Willie, this is, of course, as you know, when we get around the campfire, when we go down to the Ozarks, by the way, more coastline there, y'all, than in the state of California.
True story.
More. Yeah, true story. But when we get around that campfire, we start talking about a lot of things, and you always tell me, you go, Joe, tell me that thing about the riptide in Pensacola. Tell me that story again. And of course, what I tell Willie is we learned very young in the Northwest Florida region that when you're on the beaches and the riptide takes you out, and I'm looking at you, Alabama and Louisiana tourists, when that riptide starts taking you out, you just go with it. And it'll take you out a while, but you just stay calm because it's going to take you out until it stops. And when it stops, you then swim parallel to the beach, and then you just swim on in. All right, y'all got that? Well, that's been, Willie, as you said to me last night when we were at the orphanage. Socially distanced, wearing masks. That's what you said our strategy should be here. We know Donald Trump's going to act badly. We know the Republicans are going to act badly. But just let them do their thing. And when we get to the end of that...
Let me just say this, not badly, but recklessly, unconscionably, all right? Lyingly, okay? By continuing to lie and lie and lie.
Process, all right, then it's time to start talking. Well, we're at the end of that process. You look yesterday, Willie, at the Washington Post article by Bob Costa. They know, and they're admitting now, they can't win these legal lawsuits. They're admitting in front of courts there is no fraud as a matter of law. They're admitting there's no way forward in any of these legal challenges.
But they understand history, okay? And they remember Hayes-Tillman. They remember the Electoral College electors. They remember the confusion that happened back then, and how African Americans were sold out and the federal troops were taken out of the South after the Civil War in order to make Hayes president of the United States of America. That was a deal that was cut. So they have a historical background, they understand, and in terms of what they're doing, that's the best political ploy, is to get those electors to vote for them. All right, and that makes a lot of sense coming from their side. You have to be able to see all sides. Now, it's not appropriate because Biden won, but this is politics, and a lot of Americans don't understand the Electoral College. How you need 270 Electoral College votes to become president. They know that, but they don't understand the process that follows. That's why when President Obama became president, I did not go to the inaugural, but I did go to the Electoral College vote. I was in the balcony of the United States House of Representatives, and I witnessed and watched as Electoral College votes were cast for President Obama and how he won over Senator McCain. I watched that. I knew back then how important that was. Now the Americans are catching up.
So now they're moving on and they're going to try to disrupt the electors, doing something that is grossly undemocratic, grossly un-American, and something that will stay with this Republican Party for years to come. They know it's over, and yet they won't do anything about it. Willie, we've ridden the riptide long enough. It's time for America to move forward. Get out of it, start swimming back toward the shore, and get on firm ground. Start planning for a peaceful transfer of power. Start planning for distributing vaccines. Start planning to win this war on the coronavirus. Start having our commander-in-chief talk to our allies and our adversaries. It is past time. Obama gave Trump that advantage. Every president has done that in the past. There is no excuse for Republicans to not start moving forward now. Lives depend on it. And their continued foot dragging is not only wrong, it's un-American.
And let's be honest, there was no excuse from the very beginning. I mean, they all knew where this was headed. They all saw the vote, but they said, let's let this play out. Now, they never did that before. They didn't do it in the races that they won in the House. We've talked about that, or in the Senate. They didn't do it in 2016. They congratulated the winner immediately. But we'll stipulate that and say, you have a president right now, and we should never take this as routine, even with this president, a president who in the middle of a pandemic that is raging out of control, where we've just crossed 250,000 deaths, as you said, who is holed up at the White House, rage tweeting in all caps that an election was stolen from him. How much longer do you let this go on, Republicans in the Congress? How much longer do you let him do that? How many more people die? How much more space, as you put it, do you give this man? It's time, as Joe said, and let's go through that reporting in the Washington Post from Robert Costa, that the strategy has now apparently changed from the Trump campaign, from attempts to disqualify votes to actually disrupting the Electoral College. The Post is reporting the Trump campaign wants to delay certification of the vote long enough to cast doubt on the legitimacy of Joe Biden's win and to change the process for selecting electors. Two anonymous Republican sources tell the Post Rudy Giuliani wants to pressure Republican lawmakers and officials around the country to stall vote certification, then to have Republican lawmakers choose electors to disrupt the Electoral College meeting next month, and that President Trump is in favor of this plan. But Post also reports the outcome appears impossible. It is against the law in Pennsylvania, for example. Wisconsin law gives no role to the legislature in choosing presidential electors, and there is little public in the other states to pursue such a path. According to
Well, I'm not so sure about that in terms of other states, and there are states where the legislators do determine who are the electors. And it's a completely excellent strategy, okay? It's an excellent strategy because it's part of our system. When it comes to the President of the United States of America, we don't have one person, one vote. All right, we vote for electors who then vote for the President of the United States of America. So it's an excellent strategy, and it may work. Okay, it may work. All right, and if it does, well, you know what? That's our in our Constitution. Okay, that's how it works. You don't like it, then change the Constitution. All right, so that it's popular vote of the president. But if they're able to do it this way and overturn the election based upon Electoral College, then and that's part of our system. That's the way it is. Okay, so it's not fair, everything like that. But this is politics on the highest level, and votes have consequences. And let's watch what happens.
Several people familiar with conversations. Giuliani is regularly conferring with former White House strategic advisor Steve Bannon, one of the architects of Trump's 2016 victory.
Wait, is Bannon not in jail? Wait, is he not in jail?
He's actually, ironically, Joe, he's currently awaiting trial for fraud, which is what he's sort of trying to mastermind this operation.
So that's Willie. That's who the White House is going to. Giuliani is going to a guy who's convicted of fraud, or who's being tried for fraud right now.
Yes, who was arrested on a yacht. You'll remember this summer. It is being tried for fraud, and has wished violence on Anthony Fauci and others most recently. So that's where we are. We should just point out again that this stuff is failing again and again and again in the courts. The courts are holding up in the face of these preposterous arguments made by Rudy Giuliani and others. So they can do what they're going to do. Let them do that. But again, where are Republicans on Capitol Hill? Where are they right now? How much?
Well, the answer to that question is they're afraid. Okay, and you've heard the commentators on the media, in the media and everything like that, and they've said this, and I knew this before they even said that, right? They're afraid of the Trump voters. Okay, they're afraid of the Southern strategy. All right, they're afraid of that. They understand that that these mainly white Americans have been tricked into voting against their own self-interest. They're aware of that, all right? That's why I highly recommend the book by Professor E. Handy Lopez, Dog Whistle Politics. It's all about the Southern strategy. Everything comes down to the Southern strategy, all right? And it actually started right after the Civil War, that Southern strategy, all right? You can go back and listen to Dr. King's speech from March 25th, 1965, his Selma speech. He articulates what happened in the 19th century of having blacks and whites, dividing them, bringing in Jim Crow so they couldn't vote together. In the book now, and then the Southern strategy from the 1960s, okay, Nixon, what he did. And then it's all in the book by Professor E. Handy Lopez, Dog Whistle Politics, How Coded Racial Appeals Have Reinvented Racism and Wrecked the Middle Class. The Democrats must speak to the white working class and let them know that they're just like the African American working class, the Latino working class, the Asian working class. We're all the same. There's one race, the human race, and you need to vote in your own self-interest, not the color of your skin. All right? So it's a fact that most Republicans are white. All right? Read the book where it has the data about, the election with President Obama and Romney. And you know what? Let me at least read one thing here. All right? On the introduction, racial politics in the middle class from Dog Whistle Politics. Let's start with an open secret. Republicans rely on racial entreaties to help win elections. In 2010, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Michael Steele, acknowledged for the last, quote, for the last 40 plus years, we had a, quote, Southern strategy that alienated many minority voters by focusing on the white male vote in the South, end of quote. So that's not me saying that, that's Steele saying that, okay? Steele's echoing the remarks of another head of the Republican National Committee, Ken Millman. All right, now it's not me, it's Ken Millman saying this, okay? In 2005, he used a speech before the NAACP to admit that his party had exploited racial divisions. So that's well before Donald Trump. Okay.
And at this point, where's Mitch McConnell?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mitch has said you got a right to count the votes. I agree. You have a right to bring your legal challenges forward. I agree. But then it's time. The legal challenges we know now, and Republicans in Congress know. Mitch McConnell knows. The legal challenges have all failed. They're going to fail. There's no way forward for this president. And what's happening, and I don't know if this is a country Mitch McConnell wants to live in, but the Republican Party is doing everything they can do to undermine the integrity of our voting process, of a peaceful transfer of power. This has never happened before. There is no parallel here. This is the first time a party has tried to completely undermine the peaceful transfer of power from the person who we know won the election, and they know won the election. Now, I will say, Mika, there are, unfortunately, some people who I would personally keep away from household blenders who actually believe. They live in their bubble.
Oh.
They go on Facebook, and we have friends and relatives like this who go on Facebook, and they actually believe that there's a deep state conspiracy, that intel officers worked with voting machine engineers to mastermind a stolen election for Joe Biden. And you know what's sad? Anne Applebaum in her book, Twilight of Democracy, said that there's a really lazy stereotype about Trump supporters, that they're poor, they're uneducated, they're basically deplorables. And as Anne says...
You put that in quotes, deplorable.
As Anne says, that's a lazy stereotype often generated by the Trump campaign themselves.
Yeah.
Because so many are actually very well educated. So many know exactly where they can get real news. So many have no excuse for rummaging around in the gutters of Facebook to try to find news that just fits their worldview, even though they know it's a lie. And I know you have friends who you found out last night who went to Yale, who believe this is a deep state conspiracy, who believe that spies were running around with sunglasses on, and they were whispering in dark shadows of basements to people who make voting machines, and the New World Order concocted a deep state conspiracy. This is what's happening, and it's not the, quote, deplorables. It's not the working man from, Oshkosh.
No, it's the spoiled rich boy from New York who goes to Maine in the summer.
It's the spoiled rich boy from New York.
Richie Rich.
It's all the Richie Riches out there that have made tons of money off of Donald Trump's tax cuts. It's all the people who see their order coming to an end. And so these people who've been given everything by America are now turning on America because they don't like the fact that a guy who cages children lost an election.
Still ahead, a dire warning from one of the nation's top health officials. What the administration's point person on testing is now saying about the pandemic. Morning Joe's back in a moment.